Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
The Toronto Blue Jays front office is stirring up serious drama this offseason, and what we're about to tell you might just break the hearts of thousands of fans across Canada. While you were enjoying your Super Bowl snacks and cheering for touchdowns, General Manager Ross Atkins has been cooking up something absolutely wild behind closed doors. We're talking about a potential trade that could reshape the entire identity of this team's bullpen, and it involves sending away one of the most beloved players in recent Blue Jays history. Picture this: Davis Schneider, the scrappy underdog who captured our hearts with his incredible rookie performance. The guy who seemed destined to be a Toronto lifer could be heading south to St. Louis in exchange for a lefty reliever who throws like he's conducting a symphony on the mound. Yeah, you heard that right. The Blue Jays are reportedly in serious discussions to acquire Cardinals reliever JoJo Romero, and the price tag might just be the fan-favorite outfielder himself. Now, before you start throwing your remote at the television or flooding social media with angry tweets, let's break down exactly what's happening here, why this move actually makes a ton of sense for Toronto, and what it means for the future of this franchise as they desperately try to claw their way back into playoff contention after yet another disappointing season. The Cardinals are in full fire sale mode right now, folks. This isn't just speculation or rumor mill garbage. President of Baseball Operations Chaim Bloom has essentially hung up a giant "everything must go" sign in the St. Louis front office. They've already shipped Brendan Donovan out of town, they've made slugger Alec Burleson available, and now they're shopping not one, but two relievers who could genuinely help contending teams. We're talking about Lars Nootbaar and the pitcher we're focused on today, JoJo Romero. Multiple sources close to the Cardinals organization have confirmed that Bloom is actively looking for a right-handed outfielder bat, which just so happens to be exactly what Davis Schneider brings to the table. The timing couldn't be more perfect for a potential match made in baseball heaven, or, depending on your perspective, a deal that could haunt the Blue Jays for years to come. Let's talk about JoJo Romero for a second, because this guy is absolutely must-see television when he's on the mound. At 29 years old, this lefty has developed one of the most deceptive arsenals in all of baseball. We're talking about a 5-pitch mix that keeps hitters completely off balance. Now, he's not going to blow you away with triple-digit fastballs or make radar guns explode. That's not his game at all. What Romero does is paint corners, change eye levels, and induce weak contact like it's his full-time job. Because, well, it literally is. Last season, Romero posted an absolutely ridiculous 2.07 ERA. Read that again, 2.07. That's the kind of number that makes opposing managers want to pull their hair out and fantasy baseball owners do backflips. He's a ground ball specialist who eats up left-handed hitters for breakfast and doesn't give right-handers much to work with either. The guy is precisely the type of reliable, proven commodity that the Blue Jays bullpen desperately needs. Here's where things get really interesting from Toronto's perspective. The Blue Jays have already made some moves this offseason to address their relief pitching situation. They brought in Tyler Rogers, they've shown interest in other arms like Brusdar Graterol, and they clearly understand that their bullpen was a massive weakness last season. But here's the thing, they still don't have a lockdown left-handed reliever who can be trusted in high-leverage situations. Brennan Little showed flashes of brilliance but remains unproven. Mason Floyd has potential but is still developing. Genesis Cabrera has been inconsistent at best. The Jays need someone who can step into that 7th or 8th inning and shut the door against tough left-handed bats in the American League East. Now let's address the elephant in the room: trading Davis Schneider. For many Blue Jays fans, this feels like a betrayal. Schneider's story is the kind of underdog narrative that baseball thrives on. He clawed his way through the minor leagues, finally got his shot in the big leagues, and immediately made an impact. His energy, his hustle, his genuine love for the game made him an instant fan favorite in Toronto. Last season, he posted a .797 OPS, which is genuinely solid production from a utility player. The kid can play multiple positions, he works counts, and he brings that gritty, never-say-die attitude that fans absolutely adore. But here's the brutal truth that management has to consider. Where exactly does Davis Schneider fit into the Blue Jays' future? Toronto has a legitimate surplus of outfielders right now. George Springer is locked into right field when he's healthy. Dalton Varsho brings elite defense in center field. Kevin Kiermaier, if he returns, provides veteran leadership and defensive versatility. The organization has high hopes for younger prospects who need at-bats to develop. When you stack up the depth chart, Schneider is looking at reduced playing time, bench appearances, and spot starts that don't allow him to get into any kind of rhythm. The one position where Schneider could potentially carve out regular playing time is second base, but even there, the situation is complicated. Ernie Clement has been getting the majority of starts, and while he's not exactly an offensive juggernaut, his defensive reliability gives him value. The Blue Jays could theoretically platoon Schneider at second base, but is that really maximizing his potential or the team's roster construction? Probably not. From a pure asset management perspective, this is exactly the type of trade that championship-caliber organizations make all the time. You deal from a position of depth to address a position of need. It's baseball operations 101. The Blue Jays have outfielders to spare, but desperately need bullpen help, especially from the left side. The Cardinals need outfield help and have relievers they're willing to move. The framework for a mutually beneficial deal is sitting right there on the table. Some analysts have suggested that Toronto would need to sweeten the pot beyond just Schneider to land Romero. There's been talk of including a lower-tier prospect, maybe someone ranked between 10 and 20 in the Blue Jays farm system. Names like R.J. Schreck or Victor Arias have been floated as potential additions to make the deal work. But here's where things get debatable. Is Jojo Romero, a rental player who will be a free agent after this season, really worth more than Davis Schneider plus a legitimate prospect? That's where opinions start to diverge wildly. The counter-argument that some people are making goes like this. Romero just posted a career year with that 2.07 ERA. What if that's a statistical outlier? What if he regresses to being just an average reliever next season? What if his lack of elite velocity becomes a problem once hitters adjust to his approach? These are legitimate concerns that any general manager should be considering before pulling the trigger on a deal like this. But let's flip the script for a second and look at this from the Cardinals' perspective. Why would St. Louis want Davis Schneider in the first place? They're in rebuild mode, looking to get younger and stockpile assets for the future. Schneider is controllable, cost-effective, and could potentially be a useful piece as they retool their roster. He's exactly the type of player that a rebuilding team should be targeting in trades. If they can flip a rental reliever, even one as effective as Romero, for a controllable position player with upside, that's a win in their book. The rental aspect of this deal is actually a crucial factor that changes the entire calculus of the negotiation. Romero will be a free agent after this season, which means the Blue Jays would be trading for essentially 1 year of his services. That's a significant risk, especially in the volatile world of relief pitching, where performance can fluctuate dramatically from year to year. But here's the thing. The Blue Jays are in win-now mode. They can't afford to waste another year of Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s prime. They can't squander another season of Bo Bichette's career. They need to surround their core with the pieces necessary to compete right now, and that means taking calculated risks on players who can help them immediately. Relief pitchers are inherently unpredictable assets. Signing a reliever to a 3 or 4 year deal is no guarantee of sustained success. We've seen countless examples of pitchers who dominate 1 year and completely fall apart the next. At least with a rental like Romero, the Blue Jays know exactly what they're getting into. They're not committing long-term dollars or roster spots to a position that's notoriously difficult to project. They're simply acquiring a proven commodity for 1 season to help them make a playoff push. And if it doesn't work out, he walks in free agency and they move on. Let's talk about what Romero would actually bring to the Blue Jays bullpen beyond just his impressive ERA from last season. The guy is a legitimate ground ball specialist, which plays incredibly well in front of Toronto's elite infield defense. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at first base has developed into a genuinely solid defensive player. Bo Bichette, when healthy, provides range at shortstop. The Blue Jays have invested in defenders who can turn ground balls into outs, and Romero generates ground balls at an elite rate. That's not a coincidence. That's roster construction that makes sense. His 5-pitch arsenal gives him the versatility to attack hitters in multiple ways. He can throw cutters, changeups, sliders, sinkers, and 4-seam fastballs, keeping batters constantly guessing and unable to sit on any one pitch. This deception is what allows him to succeed despite not throwing particularly hard. In today's game where everyone is obsessed with velocity and spin rate, Romero represents a throwback to craftiness and guile. He's an artist on the mound, painting corners and exploiting weaknesses rather than trying to overpower hitters. One potential concern that's worth mentioning is that the Blue Jays would be adding their second reliever this offseason who doesn't strike out a ton of guys and doesn't throw particularly hard. Tyler Rogers, who they signed earlier, fits a similar profile. He's a submarine-style pitcher who relies on deception and movement rather than raw power. Adding Romero would double down on that philosophy, which could be seen as either really smart diversification or putting too many eggs in one basket, depending on your perspective. The case for this approach is that not every reliever needs to be a flamethrower. Having different looks and arm angles can actually be an advantage, keeping hitters off balance and preventing them from getting comfortable against a bullpen that all looks the same. The counter-argument is that in the highest leverage situations, especially in the playoffs, you want pitchers who can blow hitters away with pure stuff. It's a legitimate debate without a clear right answer. What we do know is that the Blue Jays starting rotation doesn't have a single left-handed pitcher right now. Depending on how they configure their roster, Eric Lauer might factor into the bullpen in a long relief role, but that's far from certain. The lack of southpaws puts additional pressure on the bullpen to have reliable left-handed options, and Romero would immediately become the best lefty reliever on the entire roster. That has tremendous value, especially in the American League East, where you're constantly facing teams with dangerous left-handed bats. Let's paint a picture of what the Blue Jays bullpen could look like if they successfully acquire Romero. You'd have Chad Green and Jordan Romano at the back end when healthy, providing elite strikeout stuff in the 8th and 9th innings. Tyler Rogers would be your submarine specialist for getting crucial ground balls. JoJo Romero becomes your go-to lefty for high-leverage situations. Eric Swanson provides versatility. Genesis Cabrera, Brendan Little, and Mason Floyd compete for the remaining spots. That's actually a pretty formidable relief corps that addresses multiple needs simultaneously. The question that every Blue Jays fan needs to ask themselves is this: would you rather have Davis Schneider getting sporadic playing time as a 4th or 5th outfielder, or would you rather have a proven left-handed reliever who can help you win close games in a division where every single victory matters? When you frame the question that way, the answer becomes much clearer. As much as we all love Schneider's energy and story, winning baseball games requires making tough decisions about roster construction. There's also the aspect of trade value to consider. Davis Schneider's stock may never be higher than it is right now. He's coming off a season where he posted a nearly 800 OPS. He's shown he can contribute at the major league level, he's controllable and affordable. If the Blue Jays wait another year and he struggles with limited playing time, his trade value could plummet. Sometimes in baseball, you need to sell high on players before the window closes, and this might be that moment for Schneider. The Cardinals connection makes perfect sense when you dig into what Chaim Bloom is trying to build in St. Louis. He's looking for cost-controlled talent that can be part of the next competitive Cardinals team. He's not interested in expensive veterans or guys on expiring contracts unless they're bringing back significant prospect capital. Schneider fits the profile of someone who could be a useful piece for a rebuilding team perfectly. He's not going to be the centerpiece of their next championship roster, but he could be a solid contributor who provides value while they develop their younger players. What makes this potential trade even more intriguing is the timing. We're rapidly approaching spring training. Pitchers and catchers will be reporting soon. Teams are finalizing their rosters and making their last moves before the season begins. If this trade is going to happen, it needs to happen in the next few weeks. The urgency is real. The Blue Jays can't afford to go into the season with the same bullpen questions they had last year. They need answers, and they need them now. Some fans might wonder if there are better options available on the trade market. Could the Blue Jays target someone like Devin Williams from the Brewers? Could they make a run at another high-profile reliever? The answer is maybe, but at what cost? Those types of elite relievers would require giving up top prospects or major league talent that the Blue Jays might not be willing to part with. Romero represents a middle ground, a proven pitcher who can genuinely help the team without completely gutting the farm system or roster. The analytics community would likely support this trade as well. Advanced metrics love JoJo Romero. His expected ERA, his fielding independent pitching numbers, his barrel rate allowed, his hard contact percentage. All of these underlying statistics suggest that his success is sustainable and not just a lucky fluke. While there's always some regression to expect when a player posts a sub 2.2 ERA, the data indicates that Romero is legitimately good at what he does and should continue to be an effective reliever going forward. From a financial perspective, this deal makes sense for Toronto as well. The Blue Jays have money to spend, but they also have to be smart about how they allocate their resources. Trading for Romero wouldn't require a massive financial commitment since he's making a relatively modest salary in his final year of arbitration. They're not taking on a burdensome contract or committing long-term money to a position where value can evaporate quickly. It's a low-risk, high-reward proposition from a budget standpoint. The human element of this potential trade can't be ignored either. Trading Davis Schneider would be an emotional decision for many people in the organization. Players develop bonds with teammates. Coaches appreciate guys who work hard and bring positive energy. Fans become attached to players who represent the kind of gritty, hard-working mentality that resonates with blue-collar baseball cities like Toronto. But championship organizations understand that sentiment cannot cloud judgment when it comes to making roster decisions that improve the team's chances of winning. Let's also acknowledge that this trade could blow up in the Blue Jays' faces. What if Romero gets hurt in spring training? What if Davis Schneider goes to St. Louis and has a breakout season, posting a 900 OPS and becoming an all-star? What if the Blue Jays miss the playoffs by one game, and that one game comes down to a blown save by someone other than Romero? These nightmare scenarios are always possible in baseball. Every trade carries inherent risk. The question is whether the potential reward justifies taking that risk, and in this case, for a team desperate for bullpen help, the answer seems to be yes. The reality is that the Blue Jays cannot afford to stand pat and hope their current roster construction magically works out better than it did last season. They finished with a losing record. They missed the playoffs. Their bullpen was a disaster at times. Something has to change, and trading from a position of strength to address a position of weakness is exactly the type of proactive move that winning organizations make. Sitting on your hands and hoping for the best is a strategy for teams in rebuild mode, not for teams trying to compete for championships. One final aspect worth considering is how this trade would impact clubhouse chemistry and team morale. Davis Schneider is beloved by his teammates, there's no question about that. But professional athletes understand the business side of baseball. They know that trades happen. They recognize that organizations have to make difficult decisions to improve the roster. As long as the Blue Jays are honest and respectful in how they handle the situation, there's no reason to think this would create any lasting negative impact on team chemistry. If anything, adding a quality reliever like Romero sends a message to the rest of the roster that management is serious about winning. So where does all this leave us? The Toronto Blue Jays are clearly exploring every possible avenue to improve their bullpen before spring training begins. Jojo Romero represents exactly the type of pitcher they need, a proven left-handed reliever who can be trusted in high-leverage situations. Davis Schneider, as much as fans love him, is a luxury the team might not be able to afford given their outfield depth and desperate need for pitching. The framework of a trade makes sense for both sides. The Cardinals get a controllable position player to help their rebuild. The Blue Jays get a legitimate bullpen arm to help them compete right now. Will this trade actually happen? That's the million-dollar question that nobody can answer definitively right now. Negotiations in baseball are fluid and complicated. Other teams might enter the bidding for Romero. The Cardinals might decide they want more than just Schneider. The Blue Jays might pivot to a different target entirely. But the fact that these discussions are happening, that these names are being connected, tells us everything we need to know about where both organizations are in their respective timelines and what they're trying to accomplish. As Blue Jays fans, we need to prepare ourselves for the possibility that Davis Schneider's time in Toronto might be coming to an end much sooner than we anticipated. It's going to hurt. It's going to feel wrong on some emotional level. But if it means the Blue Jays have a legitimate shutdown lefty reliever who can help them win close games in a brutally competitive division, then it's a price worth paying. Baseball is ultimately about winning championships, not collecting fan favorites. Tough decisions have to be made. Assets have to be allocated efficiently. Sentimentality cannot override sound baseball operations. The next few weeks are going to be absolutely crucial for the direction of this franchise. Spring training is right around the corner. Rosters are being finalized. The window to make impactful moves is rapidly closing. If Ross Atkins and the Blue Jays front office believe that Jojo Romero is the missing piece that can transform their bullpen from a weakness into a strength, then they need to pull the trigger on this deal and deal with whatever backlash comes from fans who hate seeing Davis Schneider in a different uniform. This is what being a competitive baseball team looks like. This is what it means to be aggressive in pursuing roster improvements. This is the reality of modern baseball, where every decision is scrutinized, every trade is debated, and every move could be the difference between playoff glory and another disappointing season watching October baseball from home. What do you think about this potential blockbuster? Would you trade Davis Schneider for Jojo Romero straight up? Or do you think the Blue Jays should demand more from St. Louis? Are you willing to part with a fan favorite to address a critical roster need? Or do you believe the team should explore other options? Drop your hottest takes in the comment section below, because this is the kind of debate that's going to dominate Blue Jays social media for the foreseeable future. Make sure you smash that like button if you want to see more breaking news and analysis about your Toronto Blue Jays. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video when major roster moves are going down. Share this with your fellow Blue Jays fans who need to know what's happening before spring training starts. The offseason is heating up, and we're going to be here covering every single development as it happens. Let's get this team back to the playoffs where they belong.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.